Hey everybody, it's David Johnson with Team Real Estate. And today, actually the next two videos are going to be on closing costs. Today we're going to give the overview of what they are and kind of who's paying what. And then the next video we're going to go into extreme detail of what they actually are. So, closing costs, what are they? There's buyers closing costs and there's sellers closing costs. Sellers closing costs are very easy. It's rule of thumb, $500 to $750. And that's really just to shut your loan down at your bank. That's really the general gist of it. Is we're just clearing the account out. That's whatever that lender charges you. The buyer's closing costs, on the other hand, they need to start up. They possibly get a survey. They've got to get appraisal. They got to get title insurance. All these things. So the buyer's closing costs are much more substantial. Typically 3 to 5% of the actual sales price of the home. So, for example, on a $100,000 home, I'm going to guess that to be $3,500. So it's a much more larger amount. Now, who pays for them? This is a kind of a tricky situation. If it's a buyer's market and there's plenty of homes to choose from, whichever seller wants to sell their house the most will pay that buyer's closing costs. And that way, that's more attractive. If it's a seller's market, right, and there's not very many homes to choose from, why would they pay there's no reason to pay the buyer's closing costs because they've got tons of people that want to purchase their home. So it just depends on what market we're looking at. Hey everybody, it's David Johnson with Team Real Estate. And the next couple of videos, we're going to be going over closing costs, what they consist of, who pays them, and how different they really are. So, closing costs in general, there's a buyer's closing cost and there's a seller closing cost. Very, very different creatures. The seller's closing cost is, for us, rule of thumb, it's going to be $500, $750. And that's just to shut your loan down at the bank. That's really all that's covering. Whatever fees that lender charges to clear your account out, that's all they have. On the buyer side, however, they have to get an appraisal done, a survey done, they've got to get title insurance, title search. There's a lot of things that have to happen for you to purchase a home. So there's substantially more, and they roughly go about 3 to 5% of the sales price. So for example, on a $100,000 home, I would guess it to be around $3,500, just off the top of my head. Now, who's going to pay for what? This is where everything's negotiable. Okay? If we don't ask, we don't get. However, I need to make sure you understand that it depends on the market about really who's going to pay what or how motivated they're going to be. If it's a seller's market and there's not very many homes for you to buy, and say I'm the seller and I've got 4 or 5 different people looking at my house, I'm very less likely to pay your closing costs because I have all these people to choose from that want to purchase my home. On the flip side, if it's a buyer's market and let's say I'm selling my home again, but there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes to choose from, and I only got these few buyers, I'm going to be more inclined to pay that buyer's closing costs because I want to sell my home. I want to make it more advantageous for you to purchase my home. So it depends on the market, but it's really important to know, don't ask, don't get. And because sometimes people will do something you don't expect. And most importantly is Hey everybody, it's David Johnson with Team Real Estate, and the next couple of videos are going to be on closing costs. Closing costs are pretty complicated to understand, and it depends on whose they are. So the first time we're going to go over an overview of what they are and whose they are. So when we go through a transaction, there's a seller's closing cost and there's a buyer's closing cost. The seller's closing costs are pretty simple. They range really $500 to $750, and it's just essentially it's what that bank charges to shut the loan down and clear the account out. Buyer's closing costs are much more substantial and much more complicated because they need a survey, they need an appraisal, they need title search, they need title insurance, doc fees. There's a lot of stuff that goes in that, and we'll hit that on the next video. But for rule of thumb, they're about 3 to 5% of the sales price. So for a $100,000 home, I would guess that to be right about $3,500. Now, who's going to pay for closing costs? This is a complicated situation. Depends on what kind of market we're in, right? If I'm selling my house and it's a seller's market, which means I have maybe 2 other houses that are just like me. But I have all these buyers. Everybody wants my house. I'm not inclined to help any buyers out because I've got a bidding war going on to the people that want to buy my house, right? So that's a seller's market. We flip that over if it's a buyer's market, and now I've got 180 houses that are just like me. Well, I really want to sell my house, and I don't have very many buyers. So I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Buyer, I will pay your closing costs if you purchase my home. So I make it more advantageous for people to buy my home. Now, that being said, I like to make sure everybody knows I'm a big advocate of don't ask, don't get. Even if the market's wrong, if it needs to be in there, maybe we can get it in there. You just never know what's going to happen. Don't ask, don't get. So if you want to try, absolutely, let's give it a shot. The other real people miss is closing costs are in addition to any funds that you have to bring for the loan. So say if you have to bring a down payment or anything for that loan, this is going to be additional money that the buyer must bring out of pocket. So when we talk about closing costs, people will say, well, I thought my down payment was included, and that is not the case. You know, on an FHA loan, if it's doing 3.5% down payment, you have to bring whatever that is. Say on a $100,000 loan, we're talking about another $3,500 plus $3,500 to purchase the home. So that's the overview of closing costs. If you have any questions, please give us a call at 319-1000 and we can take care of you, and we'll see you on the next video.